The air was thick with sweat and ego. Inside the Echo Arena in Liverpool, the final match of the International Martial Arts Open had just ended. The roaring crowd had begun to quiet, still humming from the electricity of the last fight. A towering man stood in the center of the mat, chest heaving, blood smeared across his lip, his fists raised in triumph. His name was Viktor Sokolov, a Russian-born, five-time Kairat world champion known as much for his brutal efficiency in the ring as for his unapologetic arrogance outside it. Viktor had just delivered a brutal spinning back kick to his final opponent, sending the man collapsing to the floor, where he lay groaning and unable to continue. The referee barely had time to raise Viktor's hand before the champion turned toward the crowd. Grabbing the mic from the announcer, his voice boomed through the speakers raw and self-satisfied. "There is no one left," he said in his thick accent. "All these years, I've crushed real fighters, world champions, and I still hear fools talking about actors doing martial arts on screen. Movie fighters. Pretenders." The crowd murmured, unsure where he was going with this. "You think your screen heroes are warriors. You think that action stars can step into my ring, they dance for cameras. I fight for blood. There is no comparison. No actor could last 10 seconds with me."
10 seconds.
A silence fell over the arena. It was the kind of silence that comes right before a storm. Then, slowly from the side of the arena, a figure stood up in the VIP section. He was barefoot, wearing only gray joggers and a black t-shirt, head shaved, jaw set. The camera zoomed in on him instantly. A wave of recognition rippled through the crowd like lightning on water. It was Jason Statham, former competitive diver, trained martial artist, global action icon, fighter, Brit. He stepped forward, no smile, no dramatic pose, just calm, cold eyes fixed on the champion who had dared challenge an entire world of martial artists with his ego. "No one, huh?" Jason said. His voice quiet but carrying through the arena like a blade slicing through fabric. Viktor grinned, mistaking him for a performer playing tough. "You want to try, movie man?" Viktor asked, mocking. Jason gave a small shrug. "You said 10 seconds, right? Let's see." The organizers scrambled. The audience roared. Social media exploded. But within minutes, the mat was cleared again, and the ref was back at center ring, stunned that a real, unscheduled showdown was about to happen between a reigning champion and a known actor with a fighter's background. Jason didn't wrap his fists. He didn't need gloves. He didn't need time to warm up. He simply walked barefoot to the center of the mat, rolling his shoulders slowly. Viktor, meanwhile, was already bouncing on his feet, grinning ear to ear like he was about to humiliate a child in front of a stadium. "You got courage," Viktor said. "That's rare in your world." Jason didn't answer. He only nodded once to the ref. The bell rang. What happened next was not caught properly by half the cameras. It happened too fast. Viktor charged as he always did, big, fast, explosive. But Jason didn't flinch. As Viktor threw a right cross, Jason ducked under, spun on his heel, and with surgical precision, planted his elbow into Viktor's ribs, then followed with a downward palm strike directly to Viktor's shoulder socket, jamming the joint. Viktor stumbled. Stunned not by the pain, but by the impossibility of what had just happened. Jason didn't stop. He slid behind Viktor with blinding speed and locked his arm around his throat in a textbook rear naked choke. The clock hit 6 seconds. Viktor, gasping, tapped out violently on the mat. 7 seconds. The bell rang again. The audience exploded. Viktor rolled away coughing, wide-eyed, humiliated and speechless. He tried to stand, failed once, then managed with the help of his trainer. Jason didn't gloat. He didn't speak. He simply walked away, like a man who had nothing to prove, but everything to defend. Not his ego, but his world, his craft, and the honor of all those who trained in silence. Backstage, the media swarmed but Jason avoided interviews. He went to the locker room alone, wiping sweat from his forehead, silent. A young fighter, maybe 20, stood near the lockers, eyes wide in disbelief. "You just destroyed him," the kid said. Jason gave him a half smile. "He destroyed himself. He stopped learning a long time ago." The kid nodded slowly. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Were you scared? Going in there against someone who trains for this every day?" Jason looked at him carefully. Then said, "Every real fighter's scared. Anyone who says they aren't is either lying or they've stopped respecting the fight." "But you looked so calm," the boy said. "Calm doesn't mean fearless. It means controlled." Jason paused before continuing. "I've trained in gyms that smelled like blood and failure. I've been hit harder than I thought my body could handle. But I never let that stop me, because I respect the fight. I respect the process. People think what we do on screen is fake, but the pain, the training, the discipline, that's real. The hours, the injuries, the years spent learning. All of that builds you into someone who doesn't need to prove anything. He stood and grabbed his bag. Victor, he lost because he thought he was the best. But the best are never done learning. A week later, Victor posted a message online. He had watched the footage over and over. He admitted in a raw, teary video that his pride had blinded him, that he had lost touch with what made him a warrior in the first place. Humility. He even thanked Jason. That video went viral. And the martial arts community, often divided between traditionalists and modern fighters, found common ground again in that moment. A shared respect for the art above the show. Jason, meanwhile, returned to filming his next project. But something had changed. Not in him, but in how the world saw him, not just as an actor, but as a real fighter. A man who carried the discipline of a warrior and the humility of a student. He didn't need to say anything more. He let his actions speak, just like he always had. And that's the lesson. True strength isn't loud. It isn't ego. It isn't in bragging about how unbeatable you are. True strength is humble. It's quiet. It's forged in sweat, setbacks, and silence. Jason didn't shut down Victor to win. He did it to remind everyone that the greatest fighters are still students. And the loudest man in the room usually has the least to say.